In Curtis' office, Portia tells her husband that she wishes she had told him about Drew earlier, and tells him how much she loves him. They move in for a kiss, but Curtis pulls back and isn't ready yet. She understands she must earn his trust back and hopes she gets that chance. Jordan knocks on the door, realizes she's interrupting, and goes to depart. However, Curtis tells her to stay. Curtis says he'll see Portia at home, where they'll have more privacy. Portia heads out, and Jordan apologizes to Curtis for causing problems. He says she didn't, and he just got the news that Drew wants Aurora to write a hit piece on Michael. Curtis says he came clean with Michael and even offered his resignation, but Michael wouldn't take it. Michael even suggested he let Drew think he's won for now. At the hospital, Rick flags Isaiah down and is looking for Liz. Isaiah explains that Liz took a personal day, as Aiden just left for Europe with Lucky. Rick is surprised to hear Lucky's split, but is also concerned about Liz. Isaiah says Liz can take care of herself, and he'll look out for Liz while Lucky is gone. He warns Rick if he messes with Liz, he messes with him. Rick insists that Liz doesn't need protection from him. Josh, the documentarian, follows Trina and Kai around the hospital. Today is the day Kai meets with the doctor to learn if he can play football again. Trina hopes this documentary ends when Kai gets the all clear. Kai says it ends when Drew says it ends, and he knows she doesn't like the guy, but he does. He suggests they just agree to disagree on Drew, and hopefully they'll be celebrating soon. Kai and Trina meet with the doctor, who says his latest test results show that the titanium hasn't fused to his spine sufficiently to compensate for the original fracture. Kai asks, "That's it? I'll never play football again." Trina directs Josh to turn the camera off. Trina asks if Kai's condition can improve in time, but the doctor says this is as good as it gets. He can be involved in sports, just no contact sports, as it could be catastrophic if he got hit again. Kai thanks the doctor for everything he's done for him so far. Josh pulls up the camera to film and asks how Kai's feeling. Trina warns Josh that she will drop-kick him and the camera out of the window if he doesn't stop filming. Josh says he's sorry and runs out of the office. The doctor also leaves them. Trina asks Kai if there is anything she can do for him. He says it's all over. There is nothing she can do. Trina believes he'll be able to move forward again, as he was after the initial accident. Kai says he was lying about being optimistic about a future without football. Since he discovered the surgery, he thought he'd have everything back. He wasn't considering a future without football. Now it's all gone and he was so damn close. Kai apologizes for losing it, and admits he's not used to being this vulnerable. He needs to get going as there is something he needs to do. Trina thinks he needs time to process this news, but Kai insists he'll be fine. He has something to do and he needs to do it alone. He says he'll call her and walks off. Isaiah seeks Portia out and tells her about his run-in with Rick, and that Liz is still hurting over Lucky's departure. Portia knows that sometimes, feelings for an ex never go away, just ask Jordan. At home, Liz speaks with Alexis about her accident. Alexis heard Martin pressuring her to sue the car company, and Laura asked her to talk things over with Liz as an objective lawyer, not out to make money, about the chances of a lawsuit. Liz appreciates the concern, but she's ready to put this behind her and won't be going to court. At the pool, Christina checks in with Cody, who is relaxing on a lounge chair. He says he's paid the pool manager to tell him when Ava books a pool day she's on her way, so scram. She leaves, Ava appears, and Cody quickly unbuttons his shirt. He calls Ava over and invites her to sit next to him. She thanks him, explaining it's such a nice day that she thought she'd do some work by the pool. Christina lurks and spies from a distance. As she watches them, Christina gets a call from Liz, who tells her to come by her place as it's important. Cody chats up Ava and says this pool is great, but his favorite are the pools in Vegas. Ava loves Vegas, which gets them talking about gambling in Sin City. Molly appears and spots Cody talking with Ava. Alexis meets with Molly at the pool and comments that this isn't her daughter's usual hangout. Molly says she's been trying new things out, but not everything seems to be working. She vents to her mother that Cody cozying up to Ava doesn't sit right with her, as it's bad enough she's dating her dad. Alexis asks if she and Cody are friends. Molly says they have gotten closer, and he's been there for her a few times. Ava and Cody continue to chat, and Ava mentions Kiki and how they love to play cards together. Cody learns she passed away and is sorry if he brought up bad memories, but she tells him that she likes to talk about Kiki because it makes her smile. Back at Liz's place, she tells Christina that Lucky told her everything about the accident. Christina apologizes and says something in her just snapped. Christina rambles as she explains everything that happened, and she was going to confess if anything happened to her and Rick. Liz says that, given they were only just seriously injured, she stayed quiet and let Lucky cover for her. She admits she was furious when Lucky told her, and the only reason she didn't call the cops was because Lucky would be charged as an accessory. Now, however, he's out of the country. Christina asks if she's going to turn her in. Liz says no matter how much Christina despises Ava, there is no justifying what she did. Christina knows, and she'll understand if Liz turns her in. Liz isn't going to, as her family has been through enough pain, and she's abiding by Lucky's wishes and will stay quiet. However, she warns Christina that if she does anything like this again, she'll turn her in to the cops in a heartbeat. They're interrupted when Rick arrives at the door. At Drew's, Willow cries to him that this place used to be happy and filled with love, but now it feels empty like her. Drew tells her this isn't over, but she tells him not to make any more promises he can't keep. Drew believes Michael will come around and compromise, but Willow doesn't believe so. Not after Michael froze her out after court, in addition to not seeing her in Germany, and then making up that story about Wiley. She shouldn't have fought Michael. She laments that he's too powerful. Drew insists he is the one who underestimated Michael, and he should have been more prepared. He made her promises and failed her, and he's sorry. However, this isn't over and he's been talking to Martin. Martin suggests a tactic that might improve their odds. The timing isn't great, but the plan is for them to get married. Willow is stunned he's proposing like this, and now. Drew wanted it to be more romantic, but they don't have the time, as they have to prove to the court that they can provide a stable home. Willow went through this before with Michael to keep Wiley away from Nellie. Drew says that was a marriage of convenience, and this one will be based on love. He won't overpromise again, but this gives them a fighting chance. Willow worries that the judge could see this as her putting Drew above her kids again, and making another bad decision. Drew is sorry as this wasn't the right time for this. Willow says it's just hard for her to think straight right now. He asks her to think about it, and whatever she decides, it won't change that he loves her. He suggests she go get some rest. At the Quartermaines, Sasha and Michael fawn over Daisy, and Sasha brings up running into Willow at the hospital. She is glad there wasn't a scene and feels so bad for Willow, but she is glad the kids are with him. Michael says perhaps now is a good time to discuss Daisy's custody. Now that the secret is out, he'd like to be a part of Daisy's life, but that is her choice. Sasha still wants to be Daisy's only parent listed on her birth certificate and raise her by herself. He says, "So you want to cut me out of my daughter's life completely?" Sasha insists she is not cutting him out of her life. She wants Daisy to know he's her dad, but she wants to raise her on her own, without any help from either of his families. She knows it's asking a lot. He says he can live with her terms, but would like it in writing that he'll become Daisy's legal guardian if anything should happen to her. She tells him, of course. Michael reminds her that she'll always have his full support and whatever he needs. Rick is surprised to see Christina at Liz's. Christina notes that she was just about to head out and thanks Liz for her understanding. She says they are on the same page. Christina exits and Rick asks what that was about. Liz tells him it's a personal matter and asks what he's doing here. Rick explains he stopped by the hospital looking for her and found out Lucky and Aiden are in Europe. Liz says she knew that was why he came by and just because. Rick cuts her off and just wanted to check on her. And as a friend, he's here for her if she needs anything. At the pool, Cody and Ava continue to talk about Vegas, and Ava thinks it would be funny if they crossed paths there in the past. Cody is sure they didn't, as he would have remembered someone like her. Ava decides to get back to the gallery, and Cody notes it was great running into her. Ava says the same about him and takes off. Cody decides to take a dip, jumps in the pool and sees Molly. They smile at one another. At Aurora, Curtis tells Jordan that Drew tore apart Michael's family, and Michael warned him not to let the congressman do the same to his. However, he feels it might be too late for him and Portia. Curtis gets a call he has to take, and Jordan steps out. In the hall, Jordan pulls out her phone and calls Anna to meet and talk, as she needs a friend and a drink. At the hospital, Trina races to her mother's office, tells her the news about Kai, and that he's heartbroken. She says this is because of Drew, and she screams how she hates that man. Kai shows up at Drew's house. He knocks on the door and tells Drew that the documentary isn't going to turn out the way they wanted. Finally, Michael brings Wiley and Amelia to see Sasha and baby Daisy. As they all gather around and smile at the baby, someone watches them through the window. On the next General Hospital, Joss and Trina discuss Drew, and that someone has to stop him. Drew thinks he can still offer Kai something. Jordan tells Anna that Curtis' marriage is on the rocks, and she doesn't know how she feels about it. Jason asks Michael if he's sure he's okay with this. Sidwell asks someone, "Do we have a deal?" Sonny rants that nobody threatens his family and lives. Someone approaches baby Daisy as she sleeps. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. But when it comes to soaps, a baby switch is never just a baby switch. So when General Hospital's Sasha freaked out after being handed the wrong newborn, we knew that was no simple accident. Even as Lucas and Felicia set out to discover exactly how such a massive screw-up took place in the hospital's nursery, fans were left trying to figure out what the heck was really going on. Willow's stunned when Drew proposes marriage, and Spoiler appears to have a stalker. For many, suspicion immediately fell on Drew, despite having no clue why he might have pulled such a stunt. "I think it was Drew messing with things," put forth Brenda Tolbert on our official Facebook page. Now, Sasha will blame Michael's family background for this switch. Causing trouble for Michael is the goal. Chiming in on the post, Pam Schwarting-Offenhauser suggested Drew is going to mess with Sasha to make her feel crazy, so he can use it against Michael. And while there was a time we could never have imagined even Drew doing such a thing, he's certainly been a different man since his time in prison. Might this drastic personality change somehow be a result of the beating he took in prison? Others, however, suspected Drew's better half of causing the nursery mix-up, with many thinking recent events may have pushed her over the edge. In fact, Naomi Koffler-Gross had a wild theory involving Michael's distraught ex. "I think that Willow had a complete breakdown after she lost her children to Michael," she suggests. This trauma led her to split into two personalities. One is Nellie-like and one is broken Willow. The Nellie-like personality came out and switched out the babies. In fact, Naomi goes one step further, suggesting the Nellie-like personality will be the part of Willow that will ultimately murder Drew. Several readers suggested it was simply an accident, but that seems unlikely, right? One thing almost everyone agreed on was that absolutely no harm should come to Daisy. "Please just let Sasha have some happiness," begged Sandy Williams. "She deserves it." Sasha Gilmore had finally begun to find her footing again after months of emotional upheaval. Losing Brando had broken her spirit. The death of their baby, Liam, nearly shattered her beyond repair. And for a while, it seemed like her life in Port Charles was destined to be an endless series of heartbreaks. But Sasha was nothing if not resilient, and in recent weeks, she had found a strange sort of peace, working with deception, rebuilding her friendships and trying against all odds to imagine a future that didn't involve the constant ache of grief. That fragile stability came crashing down the day she was called to the hospital for a routine campaign photo shoot in the pediatric ward. Deception had partnered with General Hospital for a fundraiser benefiting neonatal care, an initiative Sasha had championed, thinking it would be a meaningful way to honor Liam. She had been proud of the project, felt like purpose, felt healing. She hadn't expected to walk into a nightmare. The moment Sasha stepped into the NICU, a familiar sound jolted her. The soft, hiccuping cry of a newborn baby that echoed strangely in her memory. It stopped her cold, turned her around, and pulled her gaze toward the far corner of the unit, where a nurse held a bundled infant who looked exactly like Liam had during his brief life. The baby's features were eerily similar. Same sharp chin, same thick shock of dark hair, and the same deeply curious eyes. Sasha froze. Her heart beat wildly in her chest, and for a moment she felt like she might collapse. The nurse looked up, concerned. "Are you all right, Miss Gilmore?" Sasha couldn't answer. She just stared at the child, unable to process what she was seeing. It wasn't just grief-induced hallucination. This wasn't her mind playing tricks on her. The resemblance was too perfect. She stumbled back and left the room without explanation. Her vision blurred with tears as she raced to the bathroom, slamming the door behind her and bracing herself against the sink. Her body shook. Was she losing her mind again? She had worked so hard to reclaim her mental health, fought her way through addiction, paranoia, grief. Could it all be unraveling? But something about what she saw wouldn't leave her. A strange, persistent feeling gripped her. Instinct. A whisper of something deeper. And Sasha had learned to trust her instincts. They had saved her life more than once. She went back to the NICU later that evening. After the chute had wrapped and the staff had thinned out, she asked discreet questions about the baby's parents, about when he'd been admitted, about anything that might explain why that child looked so much like the one she'd lost. The nurse on duty was hesitant to share, bound by protocol, but Sasha caught a name when a clipboard was set down. Baby boy Doe. No official parents on record. No visitors. The baby had been found abandoned just outside the hospital 3 nights ago, left in a carefully wrapped blanket with no note. No security footage, no clues. That information should have comforted Sasha. A random coincidence. An abandoned infant who just happened to resemble her lost child. But it didn't feel like a coincidence. It felt deliberate. She went straight to Maxie the next morning and told her everything. Maxie, who had once been on the wrong side of a baby switch herself, didn't dismiss Sasha's concerns. She sat her down and listened carefully, then called Spinelli. If anyone could dig into the hospital records or security feeds and find answers, it was him. Spinelli got to work, and within hours he was already uneasy. The footage from the hospital cameras that night had been wiped, not corrupted but actively erased. Someone had deliberately removed the visual evidence from the night the baby appeared. That discovery triggered something bigger. Spinelli pulled hospital logs and cross-referenced them with ambulance reports. A strange anomaly popped up. 2 birth records entered into the system that same evening, both flagged as incomplete. One mother had left before her paperwork could be finalized. No baby was listed with her name, but her admittance time aligned closely with the abandoned baby's appearance. Sasha's breath caught when she saw the name. Daisy Henderson. She had never heard it before. But the phrase hit her strangely. Oopsie daisy, a phrase Brando had once jokingly used during one of their last evenings together, trying to lighten her mood as she struggled with postpartum depression. It echoed painfully now. The deeper they dug, the stranger things became. Daisy Henderson had given false contact information. Her listed address didn't exist, and no relatives were documented. It was as though she had appeared out of nowhere to deliver a child and vanished. Sasha and Spinelli went to the address anyway. It led them to a rundown part of Port Charles, an abandoned duplex with boarded-up windows and a rusted mailbox. They searched the surrounding blocks, asked neighbors, but no one had ever seen a pregnant woman there. It was a ghost address. That night Sasha couldn't sleep. Her mind kept drifting back to the baby. She wasn't imagining it. She knew she wasn't. She started to wonder. What if Liam hadn't really died? What if something had gone terribly wrong or terribly right, and someone had switched the babies before she ever got to say goodbye? It sounded insane. And yet, Port Charles had seen worse. The next day, Sasha confronted Portia Robinson, who had been working in the NICU at the time of Liam's death. Portia was kind but cautious. She insisted that the hospital records were accurate and that Liam had been carefully documented. Sasha pushed harder. She asked to see the autopsy report, the birth records, anything. But that's when Portia's tone changed. There was no autopsy, she said. You declined it. Sasha's blood ran cold. I never declined anything. But the record said she had, or rather that Brando had. In her haze of grief, she hadn't remembered every detail. But Brando had been clear. He had wanted answers. They had both agreed they needed to know exactly what had gone wrong. So why did the report say otherwise? Portia promised to look into it. She left the office quickly, visibly shaken. Sasha waited in silence, heart thudding, the pieces starting to fall into a terrifying formation. By the time Portia returned, her face was pale. She had pulled the hospital archives. The signatures on the decline form didn't match Brando's or Sasha's. They had been forged. It was undeniable now. Someone had intervened. Someone had prevented an autopsy. Someone had erased footage. And someone had brought a baby into the hospital with no documentation, one who looked too much like Liam to ignore. Sasha was spiraling. She couldn't breathe. Who would do this? And why? Maxie tried to calm her down. We don't know that this baby is Liam. It could be someone trying to mess with you, Sasha. But Sasha shook her head. Why now? Why like this? There's something wrong here. And I need to know what it is. Valentine Cassadine became the next unlikely ally. Sasha approached him after a deception board meeting, laying out what she had discovered. Valentine listened, his face unreadable. When she finished, he asked only one question. Do you want this to be true? She hesitated, then nodded. More than anything. But I don't care about hope. I care about truth. Valentine promised to help, and within 2 days, he traced Daisy Henderson's hospital ID to a burner identity used in at least 2 other cases involving infants in the tri-state area. It looked like a pattern: abandoned babies, forged hospital records, vanished mothers. It had the hallmarks of something bigger. A trafficking ring, perhaps. Or an illegal adoption scheme. Sasha felt sick. If her son had somehow survived only to be caught up in something so sinister. Valentine made calls to the WSB. They confirmed there was an ongoing investigation into illegal infant trafficking, using hospitals as cover. Port Charles had never been flagged until now. The next step was DNA. With hospital approval, and Sasha listed as a volunteer for the baby's care, she was allowed to hold him. The moment he was in her arms, her body relaxed in a way it hadn't in months. She whispered his name, Liam, before she could stop herself. The baby blinked up at her, and her heart shattered. They took a swab from her cheek, and another from the baby's. And then came the waiting. It took 48 hours. 2 of the longest days Sasha had ever endured. The results arrived in an envelope sealed with hospital authority. Sasha didn't open it at first. She stared at it for hours, terrified. What if it wasn't Liam? What if she had unraveled her sanity for nothing? But then she thought of Brando. She thought of everything they had lost. And she tore the envelope open. Positive match. The baby was hers. Liam was alive. The relief was like a tidal wave, followed immediately by terror. Who had taken her son? Who had forged the records, faked his death, and buried a lie so deep it nearly destroyed her? The investigation that followed tore open more secrets than anyone expected. The trail led to a disgraced former nurse, one with a vendetta against Sasha, dating back to when Sasha exposed her for stealing medication. She had been working with an underground network, swapping terminal infants with healthy ones to create a black market supply for high-paying clients desperate for children. Liam had been marked for death, a likely non-viable infant easily swapped. Only he had survived. And so the nurse had kept him hidden. The nurse was arrested. The network dismantled. But the scars it left behind would take years to heal. Sasha held Liam tightly, now a healthy 5-month-old, and cried for all the lost time. For the months she spent mourning him. For Brando, who never got to know the truth. For herself, for the version of her that had nearly given up. But she didn't give up. She fought. She listened to her instincts. And she brought her son home. The whole of Port Charles rallied around her. Even Nina, estranged as she was, came bearing soft apologies and tearful wishes. Carly brought diapers and casseroles. Maxie moved mountains to help Sasha adjust to life as a mother again. Brooke Lynn wrote a song for Liam and played it quietly one evening while Sasha rocked him to sleep. But the mystery in some ways would never truly be solved. The emotional wreckage of what had happened remained. The hospital underwent investigations, and several staff members were dismissed. Sasha became an advocate for NICU security reform. And each night when she held Liam close, she whispered a quiet vow. Never again. Because sometimes in Port Charles, miracles didn't arrive with confetti or balloons. Sometimes they came wrapped in silence, after a long war against the dark. General Hospital spoilers for Thursday, June 19th, state that someone will sneak into baby Daisy Gilmore Corinthos' crib, indicating that the incident at the GH nursery was not an accident. The person who put Daisy in the wrong bassinet is most likely the same person seen leaning over Daisy's crib in Thursday's teaser video. Drew Kane has just put Willow Tate to rest, but could she sneak out of the home and spy on Daisy possibly without even realizing it? It's possible Willow is drawn to Daisy during blackouts because her mental state is more vulnerable than she realizes. Whatever the case, Daisy is scheduled to be baptized shortly, so she is unlikely to be kidnapped, at least not yet. Fans may easily see someone snooping on Daisy as the show builds up the drama. Meanwhile, Michael Corinthos will keep Jason Morgan updated on his conversation with Sasha, who is still determined to raise Daisy independently. However, Sasha promised Michael that Daisy would grow up knowing he is her father, and that she is not completely blocking him out. Jason will question if Michael is really okay with all of this, but Michael may stick to his decision to trust Sasha's judgment. Next, Trina Robinson will be furious that Drew Kane raised Kai Taylor's aspirations with this procedure, which eventually failed to restore his ability to play football. Of course, Trina isn't happy about the problems Drew is making for Portia Robinson and Curtis Ashford, so she'll complain to Jocelyn Jacks on Thursday's episode. After Jocelyn says that someone needs to stop Drew, Trina assures her that someone will. In fact, Trina will assure Jocelyn that she can bank on it. Drew will offer Kai some sympathy because the procedure did not go as well as either of them had intended. Drew will, however, propose that he may have something else to give Kai. Drew senses Kai's political potential and may offer to mentor him and assist him follow a new career path. Jordan Ashford plans to confide in Anna Devane at the Metro Court pool. Jordan will be unsure of her feelings after learning that Curtis' marriage is on the verge of collapse. Jordan may be wondering if Curtis will reunite with her instead. Anna may wonder if Jordan actually wants it, and if it's worth the potential dispute with Portia. Meanwhile, Isaiah Gannon will have a drink with Lulu Spencer, and they may bond by missing Lucky Spencer and their recent romantic setbacks. Over with Jen Sidwell, he'll ask if anyone has a bargain. It appears that Marco Rios will be torn over what to do on Thursday's episode. Marco has had a lot on his plate lately, as he's been on the phone attempting to acquire some written guarantees in exchange for Natalia Ramirez's testimony. Of course, Marco's plan may fail if Natalia takes Sonny Corinthos' Belize offer or suffers the consequences of Sidwell's attempt to blame him. Regardless, Sonny will have a significant clash with Sidwell soon. Sidwell will make it plain that he intends to diminish Sonny's influence in Port Charles, and he will use some threats in the process. "No one threatens my family and lives," Sonny declares in Thursday's preview trailer. Whether Sidwell is behind the attempts on Sonny's life or not, General Hospital spoilers suggest he'll become an increasing problem for the mafia boss. The faint hum of the nightlight created a lovely, ethereal glow over baby Daisy Gilmore Corinthos' cradle. She was a little innocent bundle, completely unconscious of the silent, predatory presence that now hovered over her. The shadows in the nursery were lengthy and twisted, reflecting the anxiety that had crept over the Corinthos Tate household. Just hours before, the hectic mix-up at the Jitch nursery sent shivers down everyone's spine. Daisy and the incorrect bassinet, a seemingly innocent error. But when a person veiled in murky light drew closer to the crib, it became painfully evident that mistake was a misnomer. This was deliberate. This was calculated. The stranger hesitated, a gloved hand reaching out to linger almost possessively over the small baby. Was it a sensation of longing, a twisted desire, or something much darker? The Jitch preview video provided only a glimpse, but it confirmed that the same thing responsible for the nursery switch had returned, drawn to Daisy like a moth to a flame. Even after the chaos had settled and the truth had been revealed, Sasha found herself waking up in the middle of the night just to check that Liam was still there, still breathing, still safe. Each tiny breath he took felt like a miracle, and each coo or cry reminded her that she had defied the unthinkable. Her grief had almost swallowed her whole, but in the end love had pulled her back. The baby switch had nearly destroyed her, but it had also lit a fire in her, a fire to protect, to uncover, and to never be silenced again. As the days turned into weeks, Sasha began to adjust to life as a mother again, slowly embracing the reality she once thought impossible. Every moment with Liam felt sacred, his smile, his tiny fingers grasping hers, the warmth of his body nestled against her chest. The trauma lingered, but it no longer controlled her. Instead, she transformed her pain into purpose, vowing to be a voice for others who couldn't speak. Her story became a symbol of hope in Port Charles, a testament to the strength of a mother's love, and the truth that even in darkness light can rise.